In recent days, people from all over the world have put one important question on the table. Is it possible at all, now or in the future, for Arabs and Jews to live together on the same piece of land? Can these two different cultures and traditions, with such a long and difficult common history, coexist on the same piece of land? It appears that there are examples of places that coexist in this manner within Israel. One of them is a picturesque village called Abu Ghosh, situated between mountains on the ruins of the biblical city Kiryat Yarmi. I thought to myself, I have to see it on my own eyes. I took a bus from where I live in Petah Tikva and I went. The trip took me around 30 minutes. In Israel, everything is very close together. I had an appointment at the municipality of Abu Ghosh with Mayor Issa Yaber. He picked me up from the bus stop, and although we set up the time for our meeting, he says to me that since I'm a Christian, I should go to the monastery, because he has something else to do, and then I could join him in his office after. So, in the meantime, I took a tour around the beautiful Christian monastery. It's believed that the church is located at the same place where, according to the Bible, Jesus met his apostles after the resurrection in Emmaus, where they didn't recognize him. Today the rows were empty, in the middle of Ramadan, the Muslim month of fasting. We started the interview. During most of his career, Mr. Issa was an educator, so he dedicated the first 15 minutes to explaining Palestinian society and the kind of groups of Palestinians that exist. He told me that we should distinguish 5 basic categories. The first group consists of the Israeli Arabs, 1.5 million Israeli citizens, which estimates to nearly 18% of the entire population. They are descendants of Arabs who did not escape the land when Israel was established in 1948. After the War of Independence, these Arabs automatically received Israeli citizenship. In the second group are Palestinians who have an Israeli identity card but do not have Israeli citizenship. Most of them do not accept Israel as a state or were not permitted by the Israel to receive Israeli citizenship. They number at around 350,000 and live in East Jerusalem. The third group forms around 3.5 million Palestinians from the West Bank, or what is called the Palestinian Authority, with Ramallah as its capital city. The fourth group consists of the Palestinians who live in the Gaza Strip, which was under Egyptian control between 1948 and 1967. The Strip was under Israeli control between 1967 and 2005. The last group that should be added to these categories consists of Palestinian refugees who live in the refugee camps in Jordan, Syria, and Lebanon. Having acquired this knowledge, I began to understand that the society of Palestinians is not homogenic. Each of these groups differ from each other in their quality of life, mentality, history of previous generations, level of acceptance for Israel as a state, and in what they perceive as most important regarding their vision of Palestine as an independent country. Considering these subtle differences, it became immediately obvious that Mayor Abu Ghosh is an example of the first group, Israeli Arabs, and today he runs this Israeli Arab village. I have to find out how he does it and how it works.
I see myself as a part of what's called the peace building on the people's level. That at least I was born here in this country, and I would like to see the better conditions of life for my children, for my neighbors, for my people, and for everybody living in this country. And you know, sometimes it's not so easy to enroll normal life as any family all over the world in a country where you have a lot of conflicts, political conflicts, wars, paradoxes, dilemmas, etc., etc. But in spite of all those contradictions, I still believe with a lot of hope that living together and coexistence is still possible between Arabs and Jews living here in this country. Leave away the extremists in both sides, as Arabs or Jews, because extremists every time and everywhere, they have no major goal than to damage whatever the others can build. Israeli Arabs, of course, they have no national aspirations to fight against Israel because we accept ourselves as a part of Israel, as Israeli citizens.
With regret
we are struggling for something else. We are struggling for equality, for better conditions of life, for employment, to struggle against unemployment, to be involved more in the Israeli political, social and economic life, to have a kind of equality between us and our Jewish neighbors. The Palestinians outside,
in the West Bank
in Gaza and even in East Jerusalem, they are struggling for creating an independent Palestinian state beside the state of Israel. So their struggle and their fight is for achieving very existence for themselves an independent state. But among themselves, they still have arguments. Sometimes they fight against each other, like what happens between Hamas and Fatah. So, in total, they agree for one aim, for one goal, to build and create a Palestinian independent state. But for the ways to achieve such a purpose, they have what's called non or disagreement. They have arguments among themselves.
Different strategies.
Different strategies and different attitudes. Mahmoud Abbas, the Palestinian chairman, I think he looks to the issues in a different way, that via negotiation and dialogue, he wants to achieve this purpose. Hamas, they have a different attitude, that they believe that via fighting, maybe military fighting, they can achieve only their own. For the, let me say, radical Islamistic groups within the Palestinians, they believe in what's called jihad. Jihad is the holy war. That it's not important to die because they will receive surviving or life after death. I don't say that the 2 millions are supporting the Hamas and the ideology of Hamas. But it seems that a big group of them, they really do, and they support the ideology of Hamas. I believe that killing innocent people, whatever they are, Jews or Arabs, Palestinians, it's not a fair thing, because innocent people should be protected, and protected especially in war situation. I think whatever it is, we should be careful not to injure innocent people of civilians in the Israeli side or the Palestinian side. Also, I don't agree with sending missiles and rockets to the civilian places in Israel, because killing civilians is not accepted anyway. And you know, some Israeli Arabs were killed as a result of those missiles sent by the Hamas, by the Palestinians. So I think at least such a war should be stopped immediately. Our education system is divided into two separate or different worlds. The Jews, they have their own education system, their own curriculum, own syllabus, and the Arabs, they have their own. So from this point of view, we have a kind of gap between both schools. So in my own efforts and other educators' efforts, we try to bridge upon such gaps and bring the students together to meet with each other, to talk to each other, and sometimes to have some creation together, that they can draw together, play sport together, they go traveling together. So I believe that via education, good education system, we can break down a lot of hatred. I think we are need to invest in economy, in education.
Who should invest? Who should do that?
Who should invest? I think it's the responsibility of the international community. The Arab countries, Israel, the United States, Russia, China, Japan. I would like to break down a lot of stereotypes and the prejudices between the two nations, two peoples, because many people from the Arab and the Jewish side in Israel, they have inside themselves a lot of stereotypes about the other part. We see each other as enemy, a lot of hatred and hostility sometimes. Why? Because nothing. Why? Because we don't meet together on the personal level. We just watch whatever is going around on the TV, in the media. We don't try to come closer to each other, to talk to each other, and to understand each other. And I believe with doing so from early age, Arabs and Jews, from the kindergarten through the elementary school and high school, then the university, we can build step by step a kind of understanding and mutual respect and, let me say, mutual recognition of each other.